Davian, how you doing?
Hey, Manny P, I'm good. You?
So, why were you late?
Yes, everyone. It's my fault that we are slightly behind schedule because I was getting lunch and dinner because of the time difference. So it's 2 p.m. local time for me here in Jamaica. So I was actually rushing out because of the whole COVID, because we've got until 6 o'clock to do everything. So I was rushing out doing all of that. So my apologies. Won't happen again, guys.
It's okay. It's okay. We've got 0 people viewing anyway, so it's okay. It's okay. But
But
there
when they're
might have
playing
been
back,
people.
yeah,
There,
when they're
there,
playing back, they'll be able to see.
there might have been people waiting though when they've logged off because they thought, "Oh, it's
Yeah,
not
and
here."
it's my fault. That's why I'm taking the blame.
It's okay. It's okay. You do have to eat. Um, but yeah, I mean, the human body can go 2 or 3 days without eating and drinking. So just to let you know.
I'll keep that in mind for future. Yes.
So yeah, you hadn't watched WandaVision previously, but I have loaned a brother my Disney Plus login
Yes,
legally.
you did.
Legally, I've given you one of my profiles, it's all perfectly above board. And you have watched WandaVision from start to finish in the space of 3 days, which is different to my experience, which was watching it weekly. So after each episode, I spend the entire week just discussing my theories with other people. But you got to see it one after another consecutively in a couple of days. So I'll give the floor to you, Mr. P. WandaVision. What did you think?
I thought, when you said it was, like the best show you've seen, I was like, okay, we'll see. Because obviously it had huge footsteps to follow in, coming off Avengers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you look at things like Shield, Agents of Shield. Hey, Penny. If you look at Agents of Shield, that when that came out, yes, Avengers still had a big fan base, but it wasn't. It was still growing. So I think
Mm-hmm.
now, with the pinnacle of, Infinity Wars and End Games, literally, like, everyone who wasn't on board is now on board. So now it's got a ridiculously huge audience. Plus, take into consideration the audience that came across from the Black Panther and all those other genres who then tuned in, because there probably was a lot of casuals who wasn't, especially minorities, who probably was like, there's not really much to relate to. But obviously from Civil War,
Yep.
with the introduction of Black Panther and then him now being featuring the last two Avengers, and he wasn't just a small role, he was actually pivotal, like like we spoke about last week with him and Captain America literally running side by side as equal. So you're going to get all those audience who probably thought, well, I can't relate to it per se, is going to now jump on board because they're like, oh, Black Panther is in it. So, that brings even more fan base across to that. So with that and how it ended, to then go off with now WandaVision and the same thing with the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, they have, even though it's not movies, but they still have to live up to that legacy. So it was a huge task and a huge, void to fill. But I have to say, after watching the first episode, I was like, okay, I need to see another one. And I watched another one. And I think the first night I ended up watching about 3 or 4 episodes. And I was just like, wow, this is really, really great. But again, it's one of those ones when you watch it, like it takes you like the next day for you to like start processing it, because you
Yeah.
start, like literally doing a summary of everything that you watch, and you're trying to see, figure out what's going on before you even knew what's going on, trying to see if you have a clue. And I had no idea what was actually happening and the length of what was going to take place that would have taken place. But I was hooked and I couldn't wait to watch the next episodes. And thank God, because of where I am located at the moment, I wasn't able to sign up to the Disney Plus side. So when I did get onto it because of you, I was able to watch all the episodes back to back, which was great, because there's nothing worse than when something is really good and then you have to be waiting and waiting for the next episode, you know. So I was quite lucky in that aspect that I was able to watch everything. So it was just magnificent.
That's very impressive, Penny.
Yeah, well done, Penny.
One night. That's good.
5 episodes in one night.
That's good. So just spare a thought for me. Like, I watched the first episode, which was purely in black and white. It was filmed just like an old school sitcom. Yeah. And I switched it off and I loved the episode, but I didn't have a Scooby in regards to what was going on, like how this even fitted into the... Well, I did have a slight idea because I had read the Scarlet and Vision miniseries from the 80s, which a lot of this story is based on, the comic version, that is. But again, I didn't really have a Scooby how this was going to connect onto the wider MCU. How did you feel after watching that first episode?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. I was like, what the hell is going on type of thing. Like, you know, I'm like, are they in like an alternative reality or what's going on? You know, you weren't sure what to make of it, like, you know, but you knew there was something going on, but you just wasn't sure what was going on. If it was someone, you know, someone else that's controlling everything, you know, you didn't know exactly, you know, what was actually taking place or whatever. But as you watched more and more episodes, and then you start to see little things that you start, you know, it slowly started to unravel, where you literally saw little signs of, okay, this, you know, this may be it or whatever. But even though I had theories, you know, I still didn't want to jump to a conclusion. I didn't want to be honest, I didn't want to analyze too much,
yeah,
and ruin it. I wanted to, like, you know, let me see where this is going type of thing. So I wanted to just enjoy the journey.
Penny says, I wasn't really that engaged episode 1 to 3, to be fair. And to be honest, I've heard a lot of people say that.
Yeah.
What I can say about those people is, including you, Penny, I'm disappointed.
Shame on you, Penny. Shame on you.
Shame.
I need some cabbage or some tomatoes to throw at Penny for that. But to be fair, I'm not going to lie. Even though I enjoyed it, it was slowly building. Yeah, because it was slow. Yeah, it was slowly building. It wasn't something. Yeah, it wasn't something that was just like boom, all in your face, which in a way is great because it wasn't rushed. It was well planned out. Yeah. There's nothing worse than when something is rushed, so you don't get to understand what's actually gone on, because then you're trying to fill in the void to say, well, what could have been causing that, or what could have done this? It gave you time to process it. And I think, especially for someone like myself and Penny, who's now watched it all, and for everyone now who can watch all of it, with you got smarty pants.
By the way, you've frozen, by the way, Davian, but
I can see me moving now.
Oh, ready? Okay. Am I moving?
Yeah, you're moving. Yeah, you're moving fine. Okay. And fine. Penny was moving with the little emoji with the rolling eyes.
Oh, was she? Oh, bless.
Yeah, she was like, oh, no, my heart is broken. Yeah, that's what she put up.
It's okay. That's what hearts are for. They're there to be broken.
Penny. You still get a tomato thrown at you, though.
Now let's stop threatening our guests with violence and continue. By the way, you're still frozen for me, but it's fine. It's fine. So, actually, what if I remove you and try and put you back in? That's better. Okay, you're moving for me now. Okay. So just spare a thought for me who had to watch all these episodes with a 7-day gap in between, just sitting at home after each episode, just going, what the hell was that about? Just spare a thought for us. But for me, that built up the intrigue even more as to what was going on. And I used to spend hours online looking at other people's theories, thinking of my own theories, discussing with other people what they thought was going on.
Well, I can't, Penny, because Manny P just told me I'm not allowed to throw potatoes or tomatoes at our
definitely not potatoes. You can kill somebody throwing a potato at them. Definitely not throwing potatoes.
Oh, well, yeah, going back to what you're saying, Manny P, I understand, you know, it must have been... No, your message is coming up fine, Penny. I can see it. maybe on some screens it's showing as delayed, but it's coming up pretty rapid on mine when you type. But yeah, man, if I can understand what you're saying, with the delay for yourselves, but I'm glad in the sense that it's happened now. I was able to watch it now. I wish it was the same for Winter Soldier and the
Yes,
Falcon.
we'll get onto that. We'll get onto Falcon.
Yeah, and I'm just saying in the sense that I'll have to be waiting each week type of thing or whatever. That's the only plus I can say with slightly off topic with Netflix. At least with Netflix, when they bring out a series, they bring the entire series out. None of that messing around. Not all of them. Really? Which one?
Like off the top of my head, for example, Riverdale, they do weekly, and there's a few others as well they do weekly. I think it depends as well. Like something like WandaVision, I think worked better because it was weekly, and it did. If you just watched it all in one go, there wouldn't be any of this huge discussion going on in between episodes about what was actually going on. So yeah, let's actually dive into the show properly. As I said, there you go. Power was also weekly, just so you're aware. How did you? As I said in the last video, it was very much an examination of grief. I felt, looking at how Wanda was dealing with grief and all the things she done to kind of help cope, I guess. How do you feel about that notion?
Well, I mean, I guess probably if I was watching it weekly like you did initially, without knowing what was going to happen next, I would have probably came to that conclusion. But after watching it, I think it was more of a case of like, it's subconscious breakdown, like mental breakdown of a situation, that an emotional breakdown, but you're thinking that you're dealing with it, but subconsciously your mind can't deal with it. So your mind is actually doing what you really want to do. But obviously, because, for instance, someone like a Wanda, because she's got powers, you can't grieve a certain way because depending on your powers, you could put people at risk. So therefore, just for everyone's safety, you have to make them make them feel like, okay, I'm okay. But subconsciously, you're just like everyone else. You're still human, even though, you're a mutant or whatever, but you're still human, which means you go through the same grief process where if you're in denial, subconsciously, you'll be doing a lot of things that you're not even aware of that you're actually doing. So it's kind of like, you have a little split personality in that sense where you're saying to everyone you're okay, but subconsciously there's another side of you that's actually trying to deal and process that grief, and it's just reacting the way it's doing, and you're completely oblivious to what's actually going on.
So basically you're saying it was an examination of grief?
Yes, in a long roundabout way.
Thank you, I'm glad we got there. So what I really loved about the series was how it kind of took different sitcoms like Malcolm in the Middle, Modern Family, and based each episode on those sitcoms, because these were the sitcoms which Wanda grew up watching in Sokovia. Was Sokovia, wasn't it? Yeah, Sokovia. And this kind of gave her this kind of element of comfort, with also making Vision as well from the Mind Stone. I just thought that was a really novel thing to do.
Yeah, I think it was, and I think what I enjoyed about that also was the fact that it seems that each time when that particular time frame in which she was based in her reality on was starting to unravel, she would move forward to like a different decade, and then literally it's like the whole cycle starts over again, but in a different era.
And what I loved as well was the costume department. Like, they deserve like a 10 out of 10, like a huge bonus payment to get all of their like costumes and dresses and like clothes and makeup the props, and hair. 100% spot on for each decade, and each TV show they were working on, I think, was just phenomenal.
Well, again, it goes back to like what I was saying, isn't it, Manny P, where it's a big footsteps they had to fill. So if you go from something like, the Avengers, and the fact that this is part of the same studio as in the MC universe,
Mhm.
it would be a very big disappointment to the fan base if they wasn't putting some of that money, which they rightly earned, but invest some of that money back into their series, even though it's a series, because you're finding a lot of series that's actually, like for instance, which I have to say, a show like a network like a Netflix has mastered the art of bringing really top quality films that's made specifically for that. That's actually
Yeah.
giving theater films a run for its money because they're actually putting money in. So if they can do that for those, you can do that for something like a WandaVision, a series as well, because at the end of the day, it's going to be a reflection on you. If it doesn't live up to par, they're going to be like, well, the prop that didn't look authentic, that didn't look this. So yeah, you should invest the money in because you're going to get it back because it's the only place that people will be able to watch it. So you're going to get it back with subscription and just the whole fan base in general, plus the
Yeah.
merchandise.
I think you touch upon an interesting point as well, because there are a lot of TV shows, a lot of TV series which are part of the MCU or were part of the MCU. But now it's all up in the air whether these TV shows are actually still canon. So what I'm talking about, for example, is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.,
Yeah.
Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, The Runaways, Cloak and Dagger. Now, these were all produced essentially by Jeff Loeb, who, from what I've heard, didn't get along particularly well with Kevin Feige. Hence the reason you don't see huge crossover between those shows and the Marvel cinematic and the Marvel movies. And I just wonder if Kevin Feige was just like, unless these TV shows are going to be of the standard of my MCU movies, I'm really not going to give them too much attention, which is a shame because I really like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I really like Jessica Jones and Daredevil. And it's all up in the air as to whether Kevin Feige still thinks of these shows as being in the MCU. But yeah, I think you've touched upon a point there that, yeah, Kevin Feige, this is the standard I think he wanted for all of the MCU shows.
Yeah, and rightly so, because it should be, because it's Marvel. Marvel is Marvel. Regardless who they've sold certain characters or whatever to, it should all be on the same level. It should be a certain standard. It's kind of like if you go to a restaurant, for instance, if it's a chain restaurant, no matter which one you go to, they should all have the same standards.
Yep.
Same standard food, same everything, because it's a brand. So you should live up to that brand, or else don't call it that. Just give it a complete different name. That's
100%.
that's the bottom line. And interesting thing which you touch on, which you're saying about he was very particular where he wants it to be the same standard. Another thing which I didn't like.
I don't know that, but I'm after what you said, I imagine that might be the case.
Yeah, just by the interpretation. Like for instance, like a Netflix, which did bring a lot of those things like the Jessica Jones and the Luke Cage and like a few other one of those shows. What, like for instance, the Daredevil. What I didn't like was those shows did really well, but I think because it's not their program where they're not really technically invested in it, they just look at it like, well, I'll give it 2 or 3 seasons, and then they cancel it for no good reason. Like, when I heard they canceled like Daredevil.
Well, I think the reason they cancelled it was because Disney got a firmer grip of things, and Kevin Feige was very much very much like, oh, I'm taking all of this now. It's all mine.
Well, that's good. If that's the case, then they should just even put a statement out, just something just to let us know that, well, it's not completely cancelled. It's just going to be going over to its parent company now, who will then be taking over, type of thing.
But it's just whether Kevin he still uses it though, like whether he. I mean, there are rumors that Matt Murdock might be in the Spider-Man movie, and I hope that's true. The Matt Murdock from the Netflix series.
Well, that would be good because he was actually I thought he played it really well. I thought he was amazing as Daredevil. That was absolutely great, and it would be great to see him in the actual big screen, on the actual big screen, I should say. That would be great, because it would just bring back memories of when you were watching Spider-Man back in the day, in the 90s when we were going to school. And you saw all these crossovers,
the X-Men
you saw
up.
X-Men popped up, Daredevil popped up, you had all those people or whatever, right? So it would be interesting to actually have that happen now or whatever. But what they need to do is look at what it means to the fans, and leave the politics out of it, because you're all going to get paid. So just leave the politics out of it, bring the shows on, and you'll all get rich, because people jump on it. The thing is, this is not something that, it's not like, this is not a little flash in the pan type of thing. These movies have been coming out since, if you look at it from the best part, say, let's just go back to Blade from 99.
Let's not go back. That's too far back, David.
No, I'm just saying.
The Blade example.
I love Blade. We love Blade.
You can't keep on latching it onto the current day.
We love Blade. No, but I'm saying the time.
We have to start with Iron Man.
Superheroes. No, but just saying superheroes movies in general, like the Marvel ones, they haven't faded out since that time, and we're now 2021. And they're still going strong. So the fact that they see that they're still going for so long means that there's money to be made. So forget the politics and do the proper crossovers and give the movies the proper credit they deserve. I want to see a proper X-Men. I want to see an X-Men like Avengers, where I'll even say...
That's going to happen. Yes. That's going to happen. Do not worry about that. That will happen. And
I want to see, for the love of God, I want to see my Gambit. Where is Gambit?
Okay, calm down. Deep breaths.
Yeah. Sorry, Wanda. I know we should be talking about you. I don't want you to hex me or nothing, but I'm just saying they need to give you all the proper credits that you deserve.
We're going to do a podcast about theories about how Kevin Feige might introduce the X-Men and mutants into the MCU. I'm not being a hater. In fact, we're going to see.
Tell him, Penny.
We're going to see Blade soon in the MCU.
In fact, Penny, I think, sorry about throwing the potatoes at you, but I think we should throw it at Manny for his disdain towards Blade. What did Blade do to you, Manny B?
Just for the record, I can catch better than you, and I'll probably catch these potatoes and throw them right back at you. Okay. No, Blade hasn't done anything to me. It's just that Wesley Snipes Blade movie has zero influence on the current day Marvel Cinematic Universe. It has a little influence, but in terms of, it's not. I don't think it's that.
Well, going back to what, we haven't touched on that point yet because we haven't gone on to that subject yet, but an interesting comparison I'll give, which is with the Blade, and you're saying it's way back, is going to lead into something that I'll go into when we speak about the Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Okay.
You have to pay homage. You have to pay homage to old school, Manny P.
Okay.
Blade is the granddad. He started it.
Yes. Hashtag mashed potato at your face. Well, I mean, to be honest, I haven't got an issue with that. A bit of gravy, maybe some liquor on top of that.
Yeah, some potatoes, mashed potatoes.
It's fine. Some sweet corn, some maybe a pie or some bangers.
Yeah, I'm going to do my country accent too.
Sounds perfect. Sounds like a great day. Anyway, let's go back onto WandaVision before I have to start dashing frozen steaks at both of you. See, that's my Blade reference there. Get it?
Yeah, yes.
So cool. So yeah, going back onto WandaVision, I think there's so many things to talk about. But let's talk about some of the characters first. Thanks, my man. Thank you. So the first partnership I want to talk about is, which I loved, Agent Woo and Darcy. I love these two. They're great. And there's so many people on the internet talking about how they should do like an X-Files style series featuring them two as Mulder and Scully. Honestly, Agent Woo is just amazing. He's just such a funny, laid-back, chilled guy. And Darcy, I just love Darcy on multiple levels. She's amazing.
Yeah, I loved her from Thor. When I first saw her in Thor, she was just funny, and she was great.
One of my friends brought up a good point about Agent Wudo, saying that he kind of like suffers from all the symptoms of extreme loneliness.
Yeah, like he's one of those guys that just focuses on the work, because outside work, that's it. But
So
then
I
you
think
could say the same about Darcy as well too, because I think if you take away all that, witty humor, there's nothing there. She's a lonely, brilliant mind woman.
Your face is just frozen again. 1 second. Let me just remove you, re-add you. Okay, you're still frozen. I might just carry on with that, Davian. Actually. Okay, you're still frozen, but...
Am I? I can see you. Should I leave and come back?
No. We'll persevere, and then I'll try and add you and re-add you in a couple of minutes. But yeah, carry on.
All right. Yeah. I think it's the same with Darcy. She's really intelligent, and probably too intelligent. Yeah, she is a very good tech geek, and she's beautiful as well. It's not the typical stereotype of what they portray, intelligent people to be, like, nerdy, don't look good, and have all kind of allergies and all kind of crap like that. Afraid of sunlight. Literally, like, no, she's smart, she's funny, and she's hot.
Yeah, she's probably my biggest crush in the MCU, I have to admit. But those two are great, and if they ever done a TV show with those two, I would be all over it. It could just be like a 25-minute per episode show where they just like solve a quick mystery, and it'll be like really funny.
Yeah, but you see, Manny P, that's the problem that we have right at the same time. I think MCU has done so great with so many filler characters, forget heroes, like, with superpower beings, just regular folks who are just so great in there that there's so many of them that the problem they may have is people will get lost because there's so many. Because, I always loved, oh my God, what's his name? I always refer to him as like Agent Smith.
Coulson.
Yes, and the dark-haired SHIELD agent. Who's also, those two was incredible. And then you also have Captain America's niece that he hooked up with. She was great as well. She was a great character inside it as well. But again, because you've got so many characters now, you might not get to see all these people, and they may get lost in the shuffle because there's so much.
Yeah, but
unless they're going to start putting some of them in other spin-off shows,
which
like,
is what
Luke Cage or something like that, so they get their shine, because
which is exactly what they done with Agent Wu and Darcy. They plucked one out of Ant-Man, plucked the other out of Thor, and put them in WandaVision, and it worked remarkably well. 1 second, I'm just going to remove you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Still frozen. Right, carry on. Yeah, so that's those two. What did you think when you saw the Fox Studio Quicksilver turn up at the door?
Listen, I was like, oh my God. I was so happy, because in my mind right there, I started thinking crossovers, because I'm thinking now that he's on there, that means
you thought this is how the X-Men are coming.
Yep, X-Men will be in, Magneto. You'll get to see all these things that, for those who's not aware of what's what and who's related to who, they'll then get to find out, oh my God, that's Magneto, WandaVision. They'll get to know who Wanda is, and she'll get to know who he is. And, I just thought, wow, yes, it's happening after all this time.
Yep. But it turned out, obviously, Marvel were trolling us. Kevin Feige was trolling us. That was Ralph Boner. It wasn't Quicksilver at all.
But it's crazy. Yeah, I know, thinking that, but it's actually crazy, because now what that's going to mean now, it's going to make it very hard for that guy. I can't remember his name. I was reading up on him, who actually played the original Quicksilver.
Well, from the MCU or the Fox version?
Yeah, the MCU version.
I'll just get his name up.
Yeah, he's got like a double barrel surname. I was reading on him. I think I tagged you in something about him on Facebook.
Aaron Taylor Johnson.
There you go. See, I was right. Double barrel surname. They're saying that he may actually be coming back in.
Yeah, I read that article. I wouldn't
yeah.
pay too. I wouldn't.
No, but I'm just saying, even if they did bring him back in, he would have again a big gap to fill because let's face it, that Fox Quicksilver was absolutely amazing. He was funny. He was just let's face it, he was the star of the X-Men movies when he came in.
Oh yeah, he was great. He was great. 100%. But I loved him in WandaVision as I loved I loved the way he just used his New Jersey accent and just kind of just became the main feature of a lot of the scenes he was involved in within WandaVision.
Yeah, I mean it was absolutely amazing. I loved it, and I wished it had turned out how I was hoping. Like, yes, we're gonna finally get the crossovers, this and that, or whatever. But then at the same time, it still could work because if that was done based on, I can't remember what her name is, her powers, then who else could she have actually brought over, or done whatever to or whatever? So it makes you think, what's the limit of their powers?
Yeah, but obviously,
is there a limit?
But yeah, but it looks like it was just Marvel just playing with us with that bit of casting, a nice bit of cute casting. And again, imagine it from my point of view, where I was watching this week to week, and there were people who were just convinced, oh, this is it now. We're going to see Patrick Stewart in the next episode. We're going to see Ian McKellen or the other actor who plays the younger Magneto in the next episode. People were just convinced that all these people were going to pop up.
Michael Fassbender.
That's the one. That all these people were going to turn up in the coming episodes, but obviously it never happened. Which I'm actually quite pleased about because I wouldn't want the Fox X-Men to be in the MCU at all.
Yeah, I think what they need to do, it's sad to say this, but I think they probably just need to just recast the X-Men.
Which is, I think, what they're going to do.
Yeah, overall. There was a rumor that what's-his-name wanted to take over as Wolverine. What the hell is his name? Clint Eastwood's son.
Oh, really? I mean, maybe he'll be cast. I think the only person they are taking from the original X-Men movies is Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool, which is fair because Deadpool breaks the fourth wall anyway. Yeah. So that'll be fine. And these are great. Nobody else can play Deadpool. Let's talk about Vision. I thought Vision was great. I just love how they really fleshed out his character a lot more.
Yeah, I think the casting was absolutely amazing. I mean, I've seen him before he was even in Avengers. I've seen him in a few films, and I always thought, he's pretty cool. I like him.
Paul Bettany.
But yeah, but I think when he, it was a perfect casting they did for him for that, and I think he really showed the depth of his acting skills for him to get that role because that's a big role, and he played it. He didn't look out of place.
No, and he
in any scene against anyone.
And he delivered so many different emotions. It was amazing. He could be totally comical in some of the scenes and almost invoke Rick Mayall in some of those scenes. And then he delivered, which might be the greatest line ever in the MCU. What is grief, but just love persevering? Which, it's an amazing line, but it's better because of how well Paul Bettany delivered that line with so much emotion.
Yeah, but it still had me messed up, man, because just watching it, and again, like I said, because you were watching it weekly, so you didn't see what was coming. But when I watched it all and then I saw what had really happened, I really feel for Wanda. I mean, Wanda is a real one. That's a woman that, that loves and loves deep, and she just literally, she would have recreated the whole universe just to have that person back.
Okay, so
You
we're
know,
talking
so
about one. So we're talking about Wanda. I was going to leave her till last, but yeah. I mean, absolutely. What an amazing line that was. The writers for that one, I mean, it's just again, they deserve a bonus. Whoever wrote that line for Paul Bettany, absolutely.
yeah, I think so. But at the same time, I think a lot of credit also goes to the chemistry of the actors
Oh
and
yeah,
their
100%.
characters, because in the sense that, you know, when you see someone's got, when they've got that kind of chemistry and the character has that bond, I think it makes it a lot easier for you to write something. You could write anything, and when they deliver those lines, it's going to sound amazing
Oh yeah, it's
based on who the characters are. Whereas you might give the greatest lines to some people, but if you've got no connection to the characters, or there's nothing with the characters, it doesn't seem believable. Don't care what they say, it won't, you know, it just won't connect with the audience. So I think that's why, because they had, I mean, from the get-go, you know, from way back, which was such a great thing when they kept showing when she's going through her stages of grief without realizing, in a sense, that woman became like a therapist to her, because she started like basically like breaking down all the walls that she had put up subconsciously to let herself forget what she was actually doing, and started breaking down everything to show us what exactly happened. And
yeah.
if I'm being honest, I think that can I say it?
I mean, I don't know what
Okay,
you're
let
going
me
to say, so say it.
with something not too polite, but I think that idiot, I'll use that word, you know, that the one who's taking over Sword, is that what they call
Oh,
Sword?
Hayward.
Yeah, I think he done that on purpose. What he
Yeah, I
done,
mean,
because
yeah. He did do it on purpose because he needed to extract some of that power. He set her up,
yes,
and he
because
lied through his teeth.
whilst would you bring someone in who you know that they love that person, and they had to literally watch that person die in front of them. You're going to bring them in just to show them that person's corpse all decapitated and, you know, disembodied all over the place or whatever, and say, yep, we're going to use it because it's a valuable piece of technology, and just like no remorse for the connection
Yeah,
of what that person, whether it was a living entity or not, meant to that person or whatever.
100%.
I'm
I think
shocked. I'm actually surprised that she didn't actually just, you know, turn him into, you know, some stool sample or something, because that's exactly what he was.
we'll get
He
into that.
was,
I think we'll get into that. But yeah, I think it's pretty. I think it's yeah. He was playing Wonder for a lot of that show, but the performance of Elizabeth Olsen as Wanda Maximoff, Scarlet Witch.
yeah. It is very. It's a very. It's very interesting, and I think it goes to show to us that we shouldn't judge people based on their career choice or how they may have started into something. Because let's
Yeah,
face it, she's the Olsen twins, and they were like, weren't they like on the Disney or one of them kind of things?
isn't
Like,
she the sister of the Olsen twins? I don't think she's an actual twin. I think they're her sister.
yeah, so she's the
Yeah.
twin.
She's not. I don't
I
think she's one of
swear,
the twins.
ain't she the
I'll
twin?
check. Carry on
And then
talking. I'll check.
Bree and something Olsen, the Olsen twins. Maybe not. They all look the same. So it's my apologies if you're not, but I'm just saying. But it's just a fact. Even if you're not, the fact that you're related to those
Yeah. So
twins
there's
who
her sisters are Mary Kate and
Mary Kate and Ashley.
yeah. So they're the twins, and she's their sister.
Okay, yeah, there you go. But just the stereotype that would come with that, you know, when you think
Yes.
of the Olsens, you think, oh yeah, Disney, kids, like, you don't take them, you wouldn't take them kind of serious. Like, let's face it, when you see those Disney kids show, you don't take them serious, like, oh, like a Raven Simone, those kind of people. You just think, they get pigeonholed in certain type of things. But she was absolutely amazing from the first one all the way through. Like, she was like, you can't see Wanda being played by anyone else.
No,
Well, not in
100%.
our lifetime. Not in our lifetime.
100%. The depth of her performances were just amazing. And I mean, even that bit in Endgame where she approaches Thanos and says, "You took everything from me," and just like the way she just delivered that line, just left me haunted. But the thing about Wanda Maximoff, let's just talk about her history. We now know that both of her parents, whether they're her real parents or not, I think is still yet to be determined. Her brother and her husband has now been killed. So yeah, her entire family's been killed. And her husband was not only killed by Thanos, not only did she kill him, but then had Thanos bring him back to life and kill him again right in front of her. So it's fair to say that she's actually been through more than any of the other Avengers.
Yeah, definitely. I think it also comes down to the fact of her emotional state as well anyway, where she's already had so much tragedy in her life. And then the one thing that she had that seems was like stable.
Going to bring her stability.
Yeah, it was just taken away from, going back to it wouldn't have been Endgames. It would have been Infinity Wars.
Yeah.
When Thanos's henchmen came for Vision, and it was her and Vision.
She did.
Yeah, she lost everyone, Penny. When her and Vision was literally taking on those henchmen from Thanos' army or whatever. And even though they were outnumbered and, their backs was literally against the wall, they were struggling.
Yeah.
They weren't backing down. She weren't going to leave him or whatever. Even when he was telling her to leave him, she weren't going to leave him or whatever. She literally was going to die with him if push came to shove or whatever. So, it was hard. And I think it's kind of cruel in a way of the world, how it works, the Marvel world, in the sense that, they came so close to losing everything then, and then they survived that, and you thought, they might get there happily ever after, but it didn't work out. Like literally, she got like you said, she had the most devastating losses out of everyone there, type of thing or whatever, because most of the other ones who passed away, they didn't do it in front of their loved ones.
No, everybody else had something to go back to from the Avengers.
But I'm just saying, even Tony, when he died, he didn't die in front of what's her name? His woman. What's her name?
He did die in front of Pepper, dude.
Oh yeah, because she came in the
she told Spider-Man like go away, and was with him during his last moment. That's like the most iconic moment of the movie, dude, and you've kind of forgotten it.
Oh yeah, she did.
Yeah.
My bad, so I'm late and also forgot that bit. Yes. But even so, that wasn't as tragic as Wanda's, for the simple fact that they'd only just gotten together recently.
Yeah, and I think the thing as well is that, for example, like Pepper has a daughter. Pepper has
something, some kind of token from him, But Pepper his legacy lives on.
Pepper knows that Happy Hogan, for example, is going to carry on checking up on her. She knows that probably Spider-Man's probably going to carry on checking up on her. Like, that's family. Those people were her family for life.
Yeah, forget that. Just think about any guy who's going to try and date their daughter.
Yep. Dowdy. Good point by Dowdy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
she lost her kids. She loses her kids as well.
Well, Penny summed it up, innit? She lost everyone and literally everything.
Yeah. And that's what led her to doing what she done. I'm going to park Scarlet Witch for a moment, but definitely going to come back to her. One of the more interesting characters I thought was Monica Rambeau, who in the comics is actually also known as Captain Marvel, but then went on to be called either Photon or Spectrum.
Who's that? Who's that?
Monica Rambeau.
Yeah.
That's the black lady.
Oh, you mean so she's like, she's on.
God, you watched this like 2 days ago and you've already forgotten.
No, I was trying to think. I was thinking. I don't know why I was thinking about Wanda's nemesis, but yeah, no, yeah, she's literally Captain Marvel's like goddaughter, or like kind of like her niece.
Yeah, basically her niece. Yeah, yeah. Which is interesting. I thought it was interesting that there appears to be some kind of beef between her and Captain Marvel, which I'm sure will
Yeah,
be investigated later. In terms of theories, have you got any theories as to why there could be some beef between the two?
I think it's one of those. It's just the typical thing, isn't it? Like you're like you love your aunt, you look up to that person, but they was never around. And even though now you're in a position where you can probably understand why they weren't around, as a child, you wouldn't have understood why. But now you're old and you're actually in the same field as her. Literally, you're protecting the universe from all kind of galactic beings and everything else. You should be understanding of it. But I think, in a sense, like I said, just like what I was talking about when I was saying with Wanda, being human, it doesn't matter what, you're still gonna feel a certain way, even if you're a high-powered being. You're still gonna have human emotion, where you're still gonna feel sad, jealous, anger, resentment towards someone if they weren't where they should be. And I think that's what it comes down to, because she weren't around. Because let's face it, Captain, not Captain, Iron, was it Captain, or was it Iron Man who said, like, where was you? And she was like, oh, I was out saving the universe, doing stuff in the universe. So even someone else touched on that, but
It wasn't Iron Man. It wasn't Iron Man.
It was one of the Avengers.
I can't remember who. But no, yeah, I take your point.
I think it's something like that. It's literally the fact that you weren't there, and then now the fact that I think she also has returned from disappearing, and she's lost her mom. She literally just felt like literally maybe like her mom died with no one around her, because let's face it, it's pretty unlikely that Captain Marvel or Miss Marvel, whatever they want to call her now, was there when her mom was in her dying moment. So I think she'll have all that resentment towards, because of how close the relationship was with them.
Yeah. I've had this discussion with Dowdy, and Dowdy very much agrees with you. I think that's the reason. And I'm with you both, actually. I do think that is a very good reason. The only thing that's making me think this possibly isn't the case is that Monica is a sword agent as well, like her mum was, and her aunt is also a military person. She knows about duty, and surely she would understand that duty means that her aunts couldn't have been there. That's the only thing stopping me from thinking that's the whole reason.
I can agree with you, but at the same time, think about it, Manny P. How many times, say for instance, you work for instance at, like, okay, like I'll give an example, like say at the airport, and you have to be there at a certain amount of time, or else you're not going to get on your flight. But because you work there, and if for whatever reason you're late to get there, even though that's the procedure, you still will have a little resentment, because it's human nature that they didn't kind of bend the rules for you to let you get on. So I think it might be the case where she might understand that, yes, her duty, and yeah, that's what she had to do. But just the child in her will still be like, well, you were my aunt, you should have been here, type of thing. And you can still hold on to that, even though you're saying that you're not holding on to it. When you take away everything else and you strip it down, literally that's exactly what it would be, because there's nothing else that could have happened, because she wasn't even in our universe, from what she was saying. She was doing all kinds of stuff. So what could she have possibly done to make you mad from another universe except not be there? That's what I think it is deep down. It's just the human side of her, where even the military side understands, the human side is still resentful that auntie wasn't there for my birthday.
I mean, she's going to feel pretty guilty when Carol Danvers says, well, Galactus was about to eat this planet and I had to fight Galactus off, and I was the only person who could do it. It's it could be something like that. But yes,
I doubt it. I'm gonna have to play the gender card here, Manny P. It would be like in a relationship. You think about it, yeah. You're Tony Stark or whatever, and you're out saving the universe, and you're dating even a Pepper, and you miss your anniversary because you was out fighting Thanos. She'll be like on the forefront, she'll be like, oh yeah, I understand or whatever. But I guarantee when you have an argument with her, at some point she's gonna bring it up. Yeah, well, you missed our anniversary. Yeah, but you said it was okay. I was fighting Thanos. They're still gonna bring it up because that's just how they are or whatever. You
Yeah,
know, so
maybe. I think it's going to be
women
interesting
bashing, I would say.
it's going to be interesting to find out. I'm just worried that Monica might come across a bit childish if that's the thing she's holding. If that's the only thing she's holding against Carol Danvers. But
Or
what do
maybe
you?
she just hates superpowered, really superpowered beings because that's
Well,
what she
well,
is.
if that's
Like,
the
you know,
case, she's
like
going to hate herself
over.
pretty soon because her powers are pretty full on in
Oh,
the
really?
comics. Yeah, she can pretty much. She has the power of light. She can literally turn herself into light. In the comics, which means she can emit light. She can travel at the speed of light. She can turn herself into pure light.
Oh, wow.
She's like she's proper powerful. She's not anyone to be trifled with. So in the last scene, Monica's taken to the side by one of the agents, one of the FBI agents, and it turns out to be a scroll, which was just great.
Yeah.
They've just thrown the scrolls in there as well, which is just absolutely amazing. And she says, "Oh, there's somebody upstairs who wants to talk to you." Do you think that was Nick Fury, or do you think that was Talos?
Thanos.
Talos.
Oh, I thought you said Thanos. Go
No,
like
no,
poor Thanos. He gained the blame for everything, and he ain't done nothing this time.
no, Talos. The scroll from the Captain Marvel movie.
I think it might be. It could even be both. Maybe there's something else coming that we're not sure about yet.
Yeah.
So they obviously seen. Maybe they've been watching, and they saw that she passed the test despite everything. Her own losses and coming to terms with everything that's happened. She still put the safety of everyone, and also at the same time she didn't took the easy route, which was trying to kill Wanda. She was trying to reach out to her, so she was balanced. She was well balanced. She wasn't letting her emotion take over, and she wasn't just following blind orders.
Well,
She
as
was
Monica,
literally, she had a perfect balance.
as Monica said as well, and this actually backs up yours and Dowdy's points as well. Monica's going through pure grief as well. Like I get the impression Monica only had her mum, and now her
Yeah,
auntie is also nowhere to be seen. And like
exactly.
like Wanda, I haven't really got anybody else really to turn to.
That's
So
interesting you just said that, because now that leads me to think maybe them two will become very close, because they're literally like they've got the same kind of thing what they're going through. They lost out on people that literally was their world, that their life revolved around.
maybe, but
And
it
they've
does feel as
gotten,
though both of their stories have taken different turns, whereas Monica's gone out into space or Wanda's in a mountain somewhere. But we'll get onto the mountain. Now, my favorite character from the entire series was Agnes, Agatha Harkness. I clocked on quite quickly that Agatha Harkness in the comics. Agatha Harkness is kind of a mentor to Scarlet Witch. She like helps her hone her witching powers. She's not really a bad guy in the comics, and I don't think she's 100% a bad guy in this TV series either.
well, she's not, because when you looked at it, she was literally just trying to understand her powers and the limits of the powers and what they can actually do. And I think again, it's just one of those ones where it's like with anything, when we've got some old-fashioned parents or teachers that feel like you should only learn. It's kind of like a Star Wars, if I could use that as an example, where they only wanted you to, learn about the Force, but they didn't want you to learn about the entire Force, which they consider the dark side. And if you do that, then it's considered bad and you're evil. Whereas if you have an understanding of everything, then you'll be able to make a better judgment, an assessment of where you want to go and how to actually prevent certain things. But when you don't, you literally get, if you don't do as they say, they actually do exactly that.
Yeah, and again, just going back to
Yeah,
Monica's.
Penny.
That's a great good point by Penny. That Monica said she would have done the same if she was able to.
Yeah, for her mom. So yeah, that's why I think they're gonna have a slow build relationship.
Yeah,
I don't
and
think it's going to be full on, which is good. I think if they slowly build it, it makes it more, like with the Vision and Wanda, where it
yep.
wasn't just rushed, it was just slow. Because remember, when with the whole Vision and Wanda thing, remember he was at one point he was like guarding her, where he was supposed to like literally not let her out the room type of thing,
Mhm.
and then she literally, that's how they kind of, he was,
Just yeah,
even though he was doing that, they was slowly trying to build, they were kind of building a relationship type of thing. So I think
yeah,
the same could happen.
yeah.
I think they could help each other.
Yeah. I think Agatha's. I think she's definitely going to come back. But do you know what the entire dynamic between Wanda and Wanda? I think said to me, if you look at that TV show, who caused the most amount of hurt to other people in that during that series?
Well, if you really look at it, it was Wanda.
100%. Now, when she traps Agatha as Agnes, what does Agatha say to Wanda? She says, "This is cruel," and it is cruel, and she still trapped her within the Agnes kind of character. I think we're looking towards Wanda actually becoming the next big evil in the MCU. I think this is what everything's pointing towards. She's causing so much pain without even realizing it.
Yeah, it's but that's the thing, which was quite interesting as well. Also, you might be right on that, and I think with the two visions, which was quite interesting.
Mhm.
Did Vision transfer his subconscious to that new vision?
No, as far as I know, I don't think he did.
When he touched him on his forehead and was like showing him everything, like what happened his whole life. What if, now this is just a crazy theory, going based on what you're saying, what if he already sees that's exactly what's going to happen? That Wanda is literally going to go off the rail? Because as much as she's saying, yeah, she understands, and what is grief and blah blah blah, whatever. I don't think, even though she's acting like she's processing things that she has, I think she doesn't want to accept it.
Yep.
Yeah, very true. Most evil characters do have very, unbelievable tragedies in their life. So that's what makes them complex. Where to some people they seem like a bad guy, but to others, if you really break it down and you look at it, like for instance, when you were growing up and you watched, Star Wars, which was just literally episode 4, 5, and 6, in your mind you all just got told Darth Vader was evil until come forward to our time when they made episode 1, 2, and 3. I looked at him completely different. I did not look at him as evil. I looked at him as a guy who was very desperate, who was in a lot of pain, and he just needed the right guidance. And when you're in pain, you're going to turn to whoever that's willing to give you what you actually wanted. That's why he did it. If you looked at it, the bottom line is he went to the dark side because he wanted to learn how to control life. So he didn't lose his loved one, his wife, the woman that he loved the most. And in
So
the end, he lost her, and he lost the plot, and he kind of got molded into what, the dark Sith wanted him to be or whatever. But it's the same thing as well with Wanda. I think it's literally like she's gone through a lot, and I think it's not over yet, even though she may think it is. And I think deep down she knows it, which is why she didn't kill Agnes.
oh, thank you, Daddy. Yes, that's exactly what happened. Vision opened
Yeah,
the White Vision's mind to what was hidden from him. So all of the old memories. Yeah, Daddy's right.
yeah, which makes me think, I wonder if, in a sense, and this is crazy, maybe Wanda kept Agnes alive and trapped because she knows maybe Agnes will probably be the only one that will be able to stop her when she goes off the rail. Because she could have killed her. When she trapped her there, she could have easily killed her as well, because when
Yeah,
you trap her, she's no longer
but in a
has
way,
her powers.
though, what Wanda done was kind of worse. Trapping somebody in that life as a caricature, a one-dimensional character.
Yeah, but
This
at
is
the
what I
same
mean.
time, yeah,
Wanda's
but
been very cruel without realizing it, like trapping an entire village
didn't she
in
leave?
her
Let the people
spell.
go.
Hmm?
She let them. She let them leave, didn't she?
She did, but only after weeks of like imprisoning them.
Yeah, but she let them left. It's only her she trapped in there. And
Yeah.
what
She
happened to that
again,
vision?
again, she didn't realize how much pain she was causing people. But regardless, she was causing pain. And if you read the House of M comics, House of M comics is where the Avengers and the X-Men, basically members from both teams, get together and they basically debate whether they need to kill Wanda, because Wanda's gotten so powerful and she's so basically traumatized, and she's such a loose
Is it
cannon
still based
emotionally.
on? Is it still based on Vision? What's happened with Vision?
Everything. It's like all of her trauma, and they actually debate whether they should kill her or not. And obviously, there's Avengers and X-Men who don't want to, and there's others who say, for the greater good, we have to, because otherwise she's going to end up wiping out humanity. And that's when she says no more mutants, and she makes all the mutants disappear. But this is the power Wanda has. And I think if you watch the MCU, and again, it's just amazing writing by Kevin Feige and his team. They just keep on dropping these hints of how powerful she is, and yet how destructive she can be. Like in Sokovia, she tries to do the right thing, but she still ends up like being responsible for that explosion, killing all those people in that building.
Yeah.
She takes over an entire city, not city, a village or town, and basically imprisons all these people in their mind. She consciously imprisons Agatha Harkness into Agnes. She could have single-handedly defeated Thanos in Endgame. It was just that Thanos called on the missiles from his ship. She is ultra powerful, but just doesn't seem to understand how powerful she is and how much
Well, I think
pain she
she's.
can cause with that power.
Well, I think she's learning now, because if you look at it at the end, yeah, exactly. That's what I was saying, which is why I think she may have kept Agnes alive, because I think Agnes will probably be the only one, based on the fact that Agnes has studied, the dark arts, the forbidden part of the magic, what she should know, that will be able to stop her. There won't be any other mutants or anyone else that will, weapons clearly don't work on her. They can't do anything to her. And I think if you look at it, what she was doing in the mountains at the end, she was actually learning the
Okay.
full,
Okay, we'll get onto the mountains. I just want to quickly cover the children. In the comics, they're known as Speed and Wiccan, and they become Young Avengers. So they're nicely setting up the Young Avengers team. But yeah, like there's still loads of questions. Where did these children come from?
Well, remember, did you see a scene when they were having breakfast and they had the milk, they were pouring the milk, and one of the kid was on the back of the milk carton is missing.
Yeah, but that wasn't one of those two kids.
You sure it's not one of the actual kids in real life, not in that world? Because there was, at some point it started getting where there was like a blur between what was fake and what was the reality.
Plenty of YouTubers, more geeky than us, have actually like slowed down that scene, cut that scene out, zoomed in, used Photoshop to kind of take away all the blurs. But no, it's not a reference to one of those two kids apparently. But again, I do think that's going to be relevant later on in the MCU.
Yeah, because you wouldn't just put it there for no reason.
Because the fact is, she's plucked those children out of somewhere, or at least plucked their energy out of somewhere to create those children. Now,
And give them powers.
yeah. So anything we know about children is that, well, not children, magic like that, it's got to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
And when it comes from somewhere, there's usually some kind of payback you have to do. And in that last scene in the mountains, we could hear them screaming to Scarlet Witch, to Wanda. So we know that they're still alive in some kind of realm somewhere, which could link into the multiverse of madness, hopefully. But I've got a theory about that last scene. And I think it's a pretty good theory, if I don't say so myself. So that last scene, we see this amazing camera shot flying over the lakes towards a mountain, where we see Wanda learning all the spells and all the knowledge from the Darkhold book, the same way Doctor Strange kind of learnt it in his movie. So she only difference being Doctor Strange was asleep, but Wanda was still awake, which suggests she's actually more powerful than Doctor Strange. But anyway, she's learning all these spells, and I think there's two really relevant. Basically, there's lots of little things which by themselves don't seem too big, but once you connect all these things together, it's quite big. So, number one, the Darkhold was written by a demon named Chiton. Now, that demon named Chiton, he resides, basically his layer of hell, or his dimension, is underneath a mountain. And where was Wanda? She was basically
in the cabin,
with a mountain to the back of her. That mountain is named Wundagore. In the comics, Wundagore Mountain, on the top side, is the stronghold of again, he's not a good guy, he's not a bad guy, he's more he's just a scientist, someone called a high evolutionary. And what the high evolutionary does is he basically looks at human evolution and tries to speed it up and tries to make decisions about what the best routes of evolution are. Now, guess which two babies were abandoned in Wundagore and were looked after by a cow named Bova, who had been turned into human form, into like a humanoid form, by the high evolutionary. Guess who those two babies were?
Quicksilver and Wanda.
Exactly. So I think she's right behind Wundagore Mountain. And she's gone there because, for whatever reason, that book has drawn her towards the mountain. Because that's where Chiton resides. But I think, as well, she's going to find out a lot more about her history. There. Now, I've seen a few articles about Wanda saying that this series proves that she's a witch and not a mutant. I don't buy that at all. 100% I don't buy that. I think in Avengers Ultron, they say that in the TV series, they say she used her probability powers to make sure the bomb never goes off. Now, that's her mutant power in the comics. I think we've seen Wanda as the first mutant in the MCU. That's what I personally believe.
Okay.
What do you think?
Well, before I even forget before I even touch on that, what I wanted to mention as well earlier, which I saw and I was like, wow, and I'm glad that you brought it up, about the comics and Wanda, was that trick or treat, that Halloween scene, where for casuals who probably don't know, that is the original costume for Scarlet Witch.
Yep.
That she was actually wearing. She was dressed as the actual Scarlet Witch, for which we know how Scarlet Witch, just like how Wolverine, when Wolverine was in the, the yellow with the mask over his head and things like that. That's the actual costume for Scarlet Witch. And that's exactly what she was wearing for Halloween. So when I saw it, I was like, oh my God, she's wearing the Scarlet Witch costume. And again, just before I go even more in the mountain, when she was fighting Agnes and she actually told her, you're a Scarlet Witch. That's the actual first time what you pointed out to me, that they've actually called her Scarlet
Yeah.
Witch in the entire Marvel universe from the
Yes.
movies that have been coming out.
So
We've
much like
always known
Avengers
that
Assemble,
yes,
they
we know that she
they
was always Scarlet Witch, but she was never called by her Scarlet Witch name, which until now, all these, over a decade later.
so yeah, that's my feeling about where this. That's where I think this is going, personally. And yeah, I think at some point she's going to have to get control of these powers, and she's going to have to go back to Agatha, snap her out of this Agnes character, and ask Agatha, "Look, I need your help," because at no point is Agatha actually a bad person. Even when Agatha is attacking Scarlet Witch's Wanda's children, sorry, Agatha doesn't actually think that these are like real sentient beings. They think that she just thinks they're a spell, possibly.
Yeah, from her
And
subconscious. Yeah.
yeah, and probably thinks they're not even real. So I'm actually not even attacking children.
No, that's interesting
I
view.
I think we're going to look back at WandaVision one day, and we're going to think to ourselves, actually, Agatha might have actually been spot on about a lot of things regarding Wanda, and we never quite clocked on.
Well, yeah, because she did. I mean, the fact that it showed that everything that was happening was caused by Wanda, literally it shows that, well, in theory, that, Agnes didn't actually do anything, really. She was just drawn to, maybe it was Wanda's power that drew her there, drew her
Yeah,
to begin with. And then when she got there, she was not expecting her to be as powerful as she was. So she actually didn't probably have her guard up as best as she could. So when she actually came too close within range, she just got sucked into that reality and was trapped because she wasn't prepared. She didn't know the extent of how powerful she was. Because again, even with the book, with that dark spell book, it
Darkhold.
actually looked as if she actually conjured it, that Wanda actually conjured that book, because it looked as if the book was destroyed, and it looked as though we saw the book being formed, like she was bringing it back from wherever it was
So in the comics,
destroyed.
the Darkhold actually does take on different forms at different times.
Okay.
So I wonder if that's a part of it. But no, I think you're right to bring that up, because I think that does reflect the power of the Darkhold. So I think we should. How long have we been going?
Hour 10, 12, 13 minutes.
Okay. Let's wrap up WandaVision. What are your lasting emotions and feelings going away from WandaVision? And where do you think it's taking us in regards to the MCU?
I think it's taking us to the point where I think Wanda is learning the full extent of what her powers are capable of, because I think deep down, no matter how much time has passed, her end game is to bring Vision back, find a way to bring Vision back. She does
And her
not want
and
to
her
exist.
children.
Yeah, she does not want to exist
Well, mind
without
you,
him.
we've got White Vision running around somewhere. So, I mean, yeah, we don't know what he's doing. Dowdy's got a good theory that he's actually like going around to the Avengers museums, like learning about his past, the same way Bucky did after Captain America 2.
Yeah, I think so, because like I said, from how I interpret it, when Vision touched him on his forehead, I think he may have, when he, as well as unlock what was hidden from him, I think he's transferred himself in him, because I think part of him knows deep down it's only going to be him and maybe Agnes who will be able to stop Wanda when she goes off the rail, which she will,
Yeah.
because she ain't stable.
No,
And
she's
she
not.
ain't stable, and she caused so much damage when she didn't know what she was capable of.
Can you hear that,
So
David?
that is how much.
I can hear the anger in your voice now. I've persuaded you she's the bad guy. You're getting more and more angry as you talk
Well, I
about
don't think she's bad. I think she's lonely. She just wants
I
her
know, I
love
know, I
back.
know, I know.
She
But
just she will destroy the whole world just to get him back or whatever. That's the bottom line. And to me, that's not bad. The only thing that I didn't like that she didn't do, she should have killed that jackass from Sword who was trying to be a smart aleck. And I think that's what happens sometime when, and I think that's part of that's Tony Stark's fault in the sense that he made.
Yeah.
Yes, that's
Yes,
true. Yeah, she
exactly.
did say that. But you know, Tony Stark made humans believe that they're on the same level as superpowered beings. So they get too comfortable where they feel like they can behave a certain way. Whereas if you were to fear them like you should, you would never, if you was afraid, you think about it, you think anyone would have tried to show Thanos Gamora's dead, like chopped up body. So, oh yeah, you can't bury your daughter, but there you go, you can have a look at her, we'll let you have a look at her. No, they wouldn't, because Thanos isn't bound by the same rules as everyone else. But because she's an Avenger, they have a certain code of conduct that they tend to follow. So that's why he kind of felt that comfortable that he could actually show her visions, like disembodied body all over the place like that. And he wasn't afraid that he would actually get killed. He actually just felt, yep, she will just get mad and probably do something. He wasn't in fear of his life, because if you were in fear of your life, you would not have done that.
No, not at all. Not at all. But all in all, as I said, I think it's the greatest TV superhero show ever made, because of it's just ingenious, and we're going to be talking about the ramifications this show has on the MCU on a wider level, I think, for 5-10 years.
Well, let's hope we don't have to wait that long for season 2.
Well, they've actually not commissioned it yet, so I think they're going to tell the stories now in the MCU movies coming up.
Yes, it's sad,
Wait for Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. I think that's when you're going to see the next progression of her story.
Doctor Strange better stay in his lane and don't cross her, because she ain't playing. She's not about them games.
Exactly. He does want to cross her, but yeah. So that's WandaVision. A great. Yeah, he really does hate Hayward. It's
Yeah, he needed a slap, man. He was he's just one of those pen pushers there that gets too comfortable and want to come in, okay, heroes, today we're going to be doing this. No, you won't be doing that, and you ain't got no powers. You got no powers, but you want to talk smack to people who could destroy you like with the snap of a finger.
So let's just stop talking about Hayward, because I can see you getting agitated.
Yeah, he should have got. Yeah, he deserved the potatoes, definitely. Yes. And it's not mash. Okay. It's not mash. Straight from the ground.
We should definitely throw potatoes at Hayward. But let's talk about Falcon and Winter Soldier. So you finally caught up. You've entered 2021. What are your takeaways from the first 2 episodes?
You see, I've got mixed feelings on it, because Bucky, Winter Soldier is a bad dude. He don't play around. Falcon, Falcon is Falcon. He can throw hands. He can fight a little, but you expect him to have that level of more, where he can be relatable to. But I'm almost afraid it's like they're kind of watering down Bucky, Winter Soldier, what he's really capable of. Think about it. In Civil War, and also in Winter Soldier, he was a scary bad dude. I mean, literally, look, it took, well, it wasn't fully Iron Man at the time, but it took, Iron Man, Black Panther, Black Widow, to literally try and hold off this guy. And now, you just got him there just being watered down, and, I mean, it's still early days, so hopefully they won't do that, but I don't want him to get watered down where literally, any man can just, any little can feel they can get comfortable and try him type of thing. He's Winter Soldier, and Winter Soldier, well, he's no longer Winter Soldier, is he? He's now the White Wolf.
Well, this is the point. I think his story arc is all about him trying to leave Winter Soldier behind. What you've got to remember is the Winter Soldier was a murderer, an assassin for Hydra, and he doesn't want to be that anymore. He wants to leave that. He done so much wrong as the Winter Soldier. He wants to leave that behind, and I think this is his story arc, that he wants to be James Buchanan again, and he's trying to work out who James Buchanan is, but he's so out of touch because he's 106 years old and he's not built for 2023, is it? They're in. Yeah, he's just not built for that for this world either. Mentally. Yeah, that's why I think what this show is going to be about is him trying to suppress the Winter Soldier. I think the Winter Soldier's there, hiding away somewhere, but this is very much about him trying to suppress him.
Yeah.
And he may need to call upon that kind of murderous aspect of the Winter Soldier at some point. But when he does, we might lose we might lose James Buchanan. Thank you, Penny. And that's what I think the beauty of this show is about.
Well, I think it's all about, coming to a realization of who you are, like acceptance. He needs to accept that he may not like what he did as the Winter Soldier, but he's still also the Winter Soldier. That's part of him. And if you continue to close that off instead of accepting that, okay, yes, I did that. It wasn't okay. Granted, I wasn't in my right mind. I was being controlled, but that's also me. You can't just turn away and say that's not you, because it's your face everyone saw. When they put out, the wanted, that you were wanted or whatever, it was your face that they were saw. So it's not like people will see your face and think, oh, no, you're not it. So if you keep denying who you are, I'm not saying you're going to go out and kill people, but just accept that, okay, I was the Winter Soldier. And once you don't have that conflict in yourself, then you'll be able to go out and do a lot more. I mean, if he was the Winter Soldier that was fighting them supposed super soldier on top of that train, he would have, on those big trucks or whatever, those big ass trucks, he would have laid them out. Winter Soldier did not play around, literally.
That's because the Winter Soldier would have just killed him. But what we got now is James Buchanan, who's got a code of conduct and won't try and murder people needlessly. But
true,
that's what we want. We want James Buchanan with a heart and a bit of empathy. We don't want the Winter Soldier, because the Winter Soldier is a bad guy.
No, we want him to be James Buchanan, as in have a heart, but we want him to have the skill, the fighting skill of the Winter Soldier.
But sometimes you need to suppress that dark side. And
he has to put hands on them, Benny P. You've got criminals running riot out here. You need the Winter Soldier. He's like top flight security of the world. Yeah, he needs to stop the bad guys, like only the Winter Soldier can.
Most importantly, though, we need to save James's soul before anything, because if he lets too much of the Winter Soldier persona come back, we're going to lose him.
I don't think
all of that hard work he's done, getting himself back to being a respectable member of society, having Captain America believe in him, and that's the most important thing. He doesn't want to do anything which would make Cap look down upon him and say...
Exactly, which is why I think he would never completely lose himself in the Winter Soldier.
So another good point. He was brainwashed as Winter Soldier, so maybe a lot of those skills are lost on him.
Yeah.
And again, he was, as Penny's alluded to there, he was mindless almost as the Winter Soldier. And now suddenly he's got things like empathy and emotion he's got to deal with whilst he's having these fights.
Yeah, it's interesting because, it's like they both miss, both him and Falcon miss Captain America, yet still the one thing that they both could have had of Captain America, it's like they didn't want to have that to look at around them because it was bringing them so much pain, which was the shield. And instead they gave that away, which was like neither of them wanted to man up and take it and said, all right, I'm going to keep it.
Well, Bucky wasn't given the chance. And to be fair, I don't think Bucky wanted the shield either.
That's what I'm saying. Looking at, based on how we see how his character is, he wouldn't have wanted it because he would have felt like, no, because I'm the Winter Soldier, I did this, and no amount of rights I do will, undo the wrongs I did. Whereas Falcon hasn't done anything bad. He's just been, just a good soldier. It just so happened that him and Cap became good friends, and Cap, he accepted Cap as Cap, as a person. Captain America accepted him as him. He wasn't treated like he was a sidekick. He respected him and had trust in him completely. But I think it's one of those ones where he just still feels maybe powerless that they weren't able to do anything. But at the same time, it's not like Captain America. He just literally just felt like his fight was done. He's not from that time, and he wanted to just go and live his life.
Yeah.
Kiss as much as he loved kissing up on his niece. He wanted to go back to the auntie.
Okay, we'll park that. We discussed that at length.
He did.
We discussed that at length last week.
Did he not do it, Manny P?
We discussed it at length. We don't need to go back there.
Okay, but I'm just saying we're not suppressing it like it didn't happen. This is not Winter Soldier therapy. Cap kissed her. He was kissing on her.
Okay. Deep breaths again.
Yeah.
This is like the third time you've gone agitated now. I hope you've taken your medication.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm calm now. I'm good to go.
So for me, I think the TV show is essentially about two things. Firstly, it's about legacy and how you deal with legacy. Sam Wilson Falcon was given that shield by Captain America to continue that legacy of Captain America, because Steve Rogers quite rightly thought that Sam Wilson was that man to continue that legacy. Sam Wilson, and it's his choice at the end of the day, he didn't want to continue that legacy. But the legacy he does want to continue is that of his family. He wants to. Dowdy's finding this all very funny. He wants to continue the legacy of his family. He wants to save his dad's house and save his dad's ship. But actually, his sister seems to have control of seems to be doing fine anyway. They got money troubles, but his sister was looking after herself and her two kids fine until Sam Wilson showed up. That legacy doesn't need to be taken care of because his sister's got that on lock. His legacy is the shield.
Strange. This dude is not just a regular agent. He's like a super soldier in human form for the government, which means his pay packet should be ridiculously large. So how in the hell can they be struggling for money?
Well, he wasn't paid by the government, was he?
But he works for the government.
He kind of works as a soldier now. But you got to remember he was on the run from the government after the Civil War, and he's only just come back.
Yeah, but so I'm not being funny.
We don't know what the financial situation is of the.
Well, the financial situation, what it should be is, you should get all that back pay. All that back pay, all those bonuses that you didn't get, you should be getting all of those back now. And besides that, he should have enough contacts where he should be able to just say, listen, my sister needs X amount, and they say, okay, no problem, and they give it. How do you have to be going to some regular bank like you're some regular person, getting stopped by regular police because you're a black man, and you're, literally, it wasn't until you have to play the card. Do you know who I am? And then one of them, oh God, yeah, that's the Falcon. And then, they literally stopped from, it literally had that whole thing, which I thought was brilliant because it shows that no matter who you are, what you do, if you're not in certain attire as a minority, person of color, you literally just get seen as a person of color.
Exactly, Penny. What does that mean?
Yeah, that's true.
NHS workers work for the government.
Clap for it. That's what they'll say. Yeah, Falcon, you're leaving your house, but what we'll do a Boris. We'll come out and clap for you at 7 o'clock at night while you're sitting out on the street corner. And
another thing you have to remember as well is that 5 years ago, half the population disappeared, and the economy would have been adjusted for that to happen. 5 years later, you suddenly got all those people come back, and you've got all those mouths to feed again. So that would have played havoc with the economy. So would money even be there in large amounts to pay off these superheroes? I don't think so. I don't think so.
Government.
It would ruin the infrastructure of any country having that many people.
Yeah, but you're saying that many people. But let's be real. With most of these governments, even though they don't have money to pay this and pay that, their military budget is always untouched. It's always ridiculously high. So Take some of that military money and do that. Exactly. Falcon Thursdays, Penny. Clap for Falcon. Well, Falcon Wednesday. Today's Wednesday. We'll clap for him now while he's homeless. No, they got military money. Take some of that funding from the military money
Yeah, but
and
David,
pay
that
those
was
people.
that was during when things were normal. We've been through a situation where 50% of the population has disappeared. We don't know if world governments collapsed or whether, what happened. Like, look at the flag smashers. They said we had a world without borders for the past 5 years, and they want to go back to that. So it seems as though the monetary systems probably collapsed during those 5 years.
So what would they rather have? Would you rather have?
There's literally no money, or
Well, there's
the
money
money has
back.
just been siphoned off into other places.
So what would they rather like? Would they rather have these people who's got these kind of technology and these abilities to rob and go for, whether it's not money per se, but to go and get gold and then go sell it somewhere else? Or would you just find the money because you know they can find the money when they need to and pay these people? Because I guarantee governments are still getting paid. It's all the same, whether it's in our reality or it's in the MCU. The government wants to get paid and don't want to pay the common man who's going out there and doing it. Let's clap for Falcon.
Well, again, I think you're right. He does need to be paid, but I think this latches onto something we'll discuss later on in terms of Isaiah Bradley, the first Black Captain America.
Yes, that is so crazy because that makes so much sense.
Okay, let me just finish my point first. So that's about legacy. And I think essentially what you've got now is, I think you've got this situation between Falcon and Bucky, where they've taken the role of two brothers who are arguing what they should do with their dad's inheritance.
Yes.
And what's the best? That's essentially, what is the best way to use dad's inheritance? Is it to leave it alone in the past, or is it to actually carry it on? And these two brothers are at loggerheads over that. And when Bucky said to Falcon, like, you gave up that shield and you've given it up, so maybe that means if Steve was wrong about you, maybe he was wrong about me.
Yeah, well, you can see
how, and God, I choked up when Bucky said that. It shows how much that legacy means to Bucky.
I think it shows how much Captain America, Steve Rogers meant to him, because remember before he was Captain America, they were friends. They're childhood friends.
Yeah.
So they have
Steve
that
was the
powerful history.
Little nerdy one.
Yeah, and he looked out for him. He didn't look down on him. He looked out for him or whatever. And it went from a stage where he was the one who was looking out for Steve to now Steve being the one who will have to protect him, type of thing or whatever. So they've been through all that, whatever. So I can understand that, where he feels that way, because especially when someone holds you in a certain light and then you go off and you do something which is not viewed in the best light of what you could be. Granted, you weren't in control of it when you were the Winter Soldier, but at the end of the day, you still feel like, because of who you are, your own pride, you're thinking maybe you were stronger, you should have been able to fight that, you shouldn't have been able to be controlled, because he wouldn't have. You're comparing yourself to that person who you've put on that pedestal, and that makes you more stressed, because you're thinking, well, maybe I can't live up to that mantle of what that person was or whatever, which we tend to put a lot of pressure on ourselves at times, which is what causes us our own failure. Because rather than just embrace what we can do and what we can't do, we just said, okay, we'll work on it. You just start doubting everything about yourself. So I think it is, in a sense, like they got his inheritance or his legacy, but it's like neither of them feel that they're good enough to actually live up to it. Bucky doesn't feel he's good enough based on what he's done. And I think Falcon doesn't feel he's good enough based on the fact that he feels like he's not really got much to offer. And also, it's just the same old story. He's going to think like, what will they say? You probably, because let's face it, Captain America is what America's view of America should be, of what a real American should be. He's a white guy with blue eyes and blonde hair, strong, powerful, and he says all the right things. Now you got Falcon, who's a guy who's, all right, granted, he's still doing those same things what Captain America does, but the big difference is he's a black man. and no matter what, you will still be that. And the last thing you want is for them to start comparing you and feel like, oh God, I'm not doing this or I'm not doing that. And then you're worried about what your own community and peers will think. Is he doing this, or he's trying too much to be like that person? So it's a very complicated thing.
Yeah. So Penny says Falcon has strap-on wings, no super strength
True.
or anything really. That's the reality of what he's feeling.
True.
But when it comes to being Captain America, and as we found out in the first movie, being Captain America is more about being a good man than it is about being a good soldier. So regardless of whether you've got powers or not, being Captain America is all about the heart within you. And I think Falcon I think Sam Wilson just needs to realize that within himself.
Yeah, but I think that was all good and that was all fine and dandy until we met the first Captain America.
The second the second Captain America, you mean?
Was he the second one?
Yeah.
Wasn't it 1940? What year was Steve Rogers?
Do I have to give you a history lesson about the Second World War?
Oh, it was the Second World War. But weren't it the same time? Wasn't it at the same time? Oh yeah, but yeah, it would have been.
Come on, Davey.
Well, you know where I kind of disagree, Manny P.
There's nothing to disagree about. It's
facts. Well, it's not facts. It's facts. What they're saying is facts. But think about it. Let's be real. Back in those days, because we're going back based on that time frame. We're not based on now. Back in those days, let's face it. Anything dangerous, if they're doing any test subject, what are they going to use it on first?
Should I stop you now, David?
Well, before
you give a theory, which isn't going to
who would they have tested things on first?
Okay, so he says to Bucky, he says to Bucky, he makes a comment about Bucky's arm, remember?
Yeah, he said, oh, yeah, after I ripped it off.
So that would have been after Steve Rogers. So that would have been after Steve Rogers.
Yeah, true.
And he mentions the Korean War, which I think was in the 60s.
Yeah, I guess so. But I was just looking on the side that in reality, when it comes to them doing human testing, let's face it, they wouldn't have used, especially in those days where, let's face it, minorities didn't have a lot of rights back then. So if you're going to test, if you're going to do any testing, you would have done the testing on who?
100% in the comics. They use lots of black people before Isaiah is finally the one who actually takes to the serum. But no, it is fact in terms of the comics and the series that he's the second Captain America.
Okay.
Dude, I've literally just given you the timeline. You can't just say, okay.
No, I'm agreeing with you based on that. It's just the fact of knowing what that time frame would have been like. It wouldn't have been a surprise if they'd done it to, if there was
it wouldn't have been surprised,
America that we wouldn't have known about, that they would have worked on it, and then they would have probably, like he said, because he said something interesting, how they were prodding and testing and cutting and doing all kinds of, literally use him as a lab rat. So who knows if they hadn't done that to others, and then once they got whatever they wanted, they then said,
before Steve Rogers. I mean, you've seen the first Captain America movie that he's the first one they experimented on.
Was he the first one, or was he the first one that was successful?
Or at least the first one that was successful. No, I think he was the first person who they experimented on. And that matches the comics as well. And in the comics, Isaiah Bradley is the second unknown Captain America. In the comics, he basically...
You've read about him in the comics as well?
Yeah, a little bit. So essentially in the comics, Isaiah Bradley... And this actually moves on to what I think the second thing about this series is about. It's all about law versus morality, or doing the right thing. Yeah. So in the comics, Isaiah Bradley basically takes up the mantle of Captain America without really the permission of the American government, but he does it to get the job done, to do the right thing.
Yeah.
And that's why he's punished by being sent to jail because of it. So Dowdy says here, truth, red, white and black comic book focuses on Isaiah Bradley, one of 300 African-American soldiers experimented on by the US Army in an attempt to create super soldiers. So yeah, that's what happens. And Isaiah is the only one who really survives the process.
Well, it was six. Didn't he say it was six of them?
No, I don't remember him saying that.
He was saying something about six of them, and some got killed, blah blah blah, whatever. And
okay, that might be a story they kind of retell further into the series. But
yeah,
I
he
think
was saying something about six of them, and then he was the last one that was in prison or some crap like that.
Maybe just in the TV series, maybe it's just going to
Yeah.
be 6 of them they experimented on as opposed to 300. But yeah, I think the important thing to take away here is there was a black Captain America, and the American government whitewashed it, and I mean that in both senses of the term. That's powerful stuff. Because it is something you can imagine the American government doing, especially in the 50s and 60s.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's I mean, literally since that episode, like, literally like on Facebook, I've been seeing so many like, like Marvel, because I follow a lot of these like comics and Marvels pages on Facebook. And then, he's now seen all these things now they're bringing up about the black Captain America. Like literally, like it's taken on a life of its own now, where they're bringing up all these things. Like I think, like you said, because it's been around, but not many people knew about it. And now that they've now seen it on TV, now it's like a history lesson where people's now bringing up stuff about it, so you can actually go up and read to know more about it or whatever. Because for someone like me who was also casual on that, which I wasn't aware of that, now you're seeing that and you're getting all this information. You want to know more about, so who was he? What happened? Who was his enemies? Who, and the fact that he said it, and he wasn't even afraid. He was letting, but he didn't care how young Bucky was, or and the fact that he's still old. He was telling Bucky that I would whoop that, I whooped that ass back in the day.
He beats Winter Soldier in the fight, which they talk about.
Yeah, that's what he said. Ripped off your arm and everything.
He must have been pretty badass back in the day.
Well, he would have to be, because literally that's a metal arm and he's just flesh and bone, and he whooped that ass and took his arm.
Yeah. Yeah, obviously that arm wouldn't have been vibranium. I wonder what that arm would have been made of. But the acting performance of from the actor who played Isaiah Bradley, whose name I have forgotten.
And he's actually amazing. He's one of the ones, because they brought that up as well.
Yes.
And he's famous for playing John Jones in Justice League, the animated series. He did the voice for him, which I was like,
really?
My God, I didn't know that. Yeah, like I said, since he's come on there, since I've watched it, like I said, the last 2 days, I saw all these things on Facebook. So they're telling you, like, who is he, blah, 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 like, as in, who is he? And then they start showing you all these different characters that he's voiced in, like, animated series and things like that or whatever. And that's one of his most famous roles, literally. He was also in, I think he was in Luke Cage.
See?
Or one of those. He's in one of those kind of things. But they were showing like all the different things that he was in.
Okay. But yeah, I just think I'm really pleased Marvel were touching upon this, the racial aspect of it. And then as soon as they leave his house, like obviously we already touched upon it, but they get pulled over by the police, they automatically assume Sam Wilson is bothering Bucky, and we all know why they assume Sam Wilson was the one in the wrong. There's been a few debates online and even amongst my own friendship groups about whether that scene addressed the racial disparities within America enough, as a suggestion that scene just kind of touched upon the racism but didn't really address it. As a black man, how do you feel about that notion?
Well, as a beige guy, I feel like it's, it does.
As a beige guy, sorry.
Yes, it does speak volume for it, because it shows, like I said, when leaving from there and they were arguing, don't know why the police was called, or if the police just happened to be driving through.
I get the
Looking at the neighborhood, you know, it's probably one of those ones where police always be coming
they're
through
always
just to,
driving around.
yeah. And they saw a black guy, you know, who was obviously he's of good stature because he's not like a skinny, you know, he's big, and obviously they see a black guy arguing with a clean-cut white guy. And the first thing they come up with, you know, what's going on? We need some identification. We need this, we need that, or whatever. And he's trying to go about it the normal way, like a normal person would, which is, why would you need this? Why would you need that? He didn't play the I'm the Falcon card first. He tried to be rational. And even when, you know, Bucky was saying, no, there's no problem, we're fine here, they still wasn't listening to him. It was literally just showing you what the reality is for a color of person.
Yeah.
If you're not dressed or you don't look a certain way, where, you know, white majority respects that particular genre, you know, whatever field you're in, i.e. if they saw him arguing with him and he was in his military uniform or whatever, it would have been a different approach. You know, if he was in a police uniform, it would be a different approach. But because he's in civvy, they just look at him like, oh, here we have this drug dealer black guy who is arguing with this clean-cut white guy, you know. And even when the white guy is saying, no, there's no problem, they would not listen. It wasn't until he actually had to play that card, like, do you know who I am? And luckily, one of them was actually clued up enough to actually look and say, oh, that's who he is. But I found it quite interesting that the fact that he doesn't wear a mask. He's not like Spider-Man or whatever, or War Machine that's in an armor. All he basically has on is some goggles. And you're literally telling me you're not able to recognize him or whatever. So, you know, I mean, it just says a lot. So
yeah,
it was beautiful because I think it went with the tone of that whole interaction from with the second Captain America.
Yeah.
With basically, he looks like he's a bitter man that basically got treated a certain way just by the little things that he said based on the skin color, that he was a black man and he was a black powerful man. And even though he was doing the right thing, because he wasn't doing it their way, which is, you know, following Uncle Sam, what they say, how you should do things, then they basically found whatever ways they could to try and trumped up whatever charges to actually prosecute him, and basically made him suffer.
And then by the end of it,
he probably could have broken out of whatever jail they'd put him into, but he knows if he did that, he knows he would have made it worse for himself and for anyone else. So he literally just toughed it out and just dealt with it. And his way of dealing with it is just being bitter.
Yeah. So
at the fact of everything, because sorry, I have to keep going on for a sec, Matty P, because when you look at it, the fact that the Winter Soldier, or Sam was the Winter Soldier that did so many wrongs, and he's looking at him like, here's this guy who did all this, and he's still walking around. He didn't do any time, and I, who did the right thing, my reward was prison time for me doing right. He did wrong, and he gets government immunity.
That's a great point to bring up. It's a great point, and he's been forgiven, and yet Isaiah Bradley probably just didn't take orders properly, and he was in prison for 30 years.
And he wasn't even a criminal. He was just in prison because he wanted to do things his way without following what they're saying, which is crazy. The one who was actually a terrorist against America, because literally he was an actual terrorist and a traitor, if you look at it. And he gets government immunity. I'm not saying I disagree with it because it wasn't his fault.
Because he was brainwashed.
He was brainwashed. But the fact that he gets that, you know, he probably gets an apartment, you know, he gets some kind of, you know, benefits, you know, money, something, because obviously he's not working a 9 to 5. So he's getting some kind of financial assistance. And then you've got this guy who was an actual American hero, and he's living in like some rundown neighborhood that looks like it's a crime-filled neighborhood. And he's got a criminal record, which means probably however many years he did in prison, when he came out, he probably wouldn't have been able to get a decent job because he would have been a black man with a criminal record. And coming from that time, because obviously he's an old man, it means he would have come through the whole Jim Crow era, which meant he would have been treated like crap. He would have had to just take whatever dead hen jobs, working ridiculous hours just to get minimal money, just enough to survive. And he's probably bitter knowing the fact that he's got the power at his fingertip where he could rob a bank, he could do whatever and make himself rich. But he was probably still deep down, he still was a patriot, which is probably what hurts him so much, because he's still patriotic, even though America has forgotten him. He never really forgot them, because he could have been a criminal. He would have been rich if he was a criminal. Let's face it. So why is he still in that situation, unless deep down he's still a patriot?
He probably is. He probably is. I'm sure he is, for that matter. But this is what we keep on talking about. This show is very much about doing the right thing and doing what the law or authority tells you to do are two entirely separate things. We've seen this all throughout this TV show. And a good example of that is John Walker, the new Captain America. Boo.
Yeah, I don't like his chin.
Yeah, nobody likes his chin. But I think he's a clear example of someone who thinks that doing the right thing is just taking orders and following orders. And he tries to be humble. He tries to be a nice guy. But he is just an obnoxious douchebag. And
I don't think he is.
No, he is. He is. Because it comes out the little comments he makes.
Well, I think he's just like one of those ones where he's, to his circle and his people, he's normal. He won't be that way to them.
Exactly.
But to someone who's outside his circle, he'll be that. Because, I mean, look at his woman. His woman is literally his woman is a minority.
Yeah.
And that's his woman. And they look like they've been together from way back in the day, because they talk about from school days, blah, 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 whatever. So, from football, playing high school football. So it looks like he's with his, he's got a minority for a woman. So I don't think it's a racist thing. I think in his mind,
I don't think he's racist. I don't think he's racist.
No, I'm just saying, I think in his mind, he believes that, if you do the right thing and, you follow orders, everything will play out. Whereas you've got people like the second Captain America, who, although he did the right thing, he still got persecuted because he didn't fit a certain dynamic.
Exactly. And someone like John Walker would probably think that prison sentence was justified because he didn't follow orders. And that's the difference, because he can't see the difference between morality and following orders. Now, Captain America, Steve Rogers, he doesn't follow orders if he thinks they're rubbish. He didn't sign the Sokovia.
Well, he was, because remember, that's why him and Tony Stark, when they had that issue to begin with, when they were on the ship, remember when they were all being controlled slightly by the Infinity Stone?
The scepter.
Yeah, the scepter with the Infinity Stone. And it wasn't until he's saying, Fury's and telling us everything, blah, 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 whatever. And he was going on like, you need to follow orders. But at the same time, I think that was probably one of the first time where he didn't. And he went and did some research just to be sure.
Exactly. You see that Steve Rogers very much is controlled by his morality, and his morality is not determined by those in authority. He'll follow orders if he thinks they're the right orders.
Right orders, yeah. But he went and checked first or whatever. Whereas I think this guy probably won't. This Captain America knockoff, more like the US soldier. And
and it's what he believes. It's what John Walker believes has been a good patriot, and for that we can't blame him too much. But it's the little comments he makes, like when he said to Falcon, "Oh, it would be great to have Cap's wingman by my side."
Yeah, that's one of them. Like, you're a sidekick. You're you're our sidekick or whatever. Because as far as he's concerned, his black guy that he's with, that's his guy. They're a team. But you will just be the backup. You'll be our wingman type of thing or whatever. You're not us. You're not from. We're not the same clique type of thing or whatever. So I personally believe that there's going to be a war. It's going to kick off between them at some point.
Well, it's funny you say that. There is a Civil War 2 in the comics, and people were suggesting online that actually this series is setting up a second Civil War.
Yeah, I saw it on Facebook when you saw literally both of them with the shield, like literally fighting against each other, and they both had like the Captain America shield.
Yeah, so that was a comic. US Agent versus Falcon and Bucky. And I loved it as well when they're taking the Jeep ride back to the airport, and Lamar Hoskins tells Bucky his code name of Battlestar, and Bucky's like, "No, I've had enough. I don't care. You and your stupid code names. I'm out of here. I love that. Just
So hang on, what you just said. So he's going to be the U.S. soldier, U.S. agent. Sorry, U.S.
so in the
agent.
comics, he's known as the US agent.
That's why I brought it up because I saw. You know how it's funny how I actually know about the U.S. agent is from. Now this is for the game heads. Do you remember when they brought out X-Men versus Street Fighter, the game?
Yes.
And then the second one they brought out was Marvel versus Street Fighter. And then in one of those Marvel versus Street Fighter, when you could have like an additional character who would just jump in, do one attack. US Agent was one of the characters that you could pick from the Marvel side. But I never knew who he was, but I always remembered him on the game or whatever. And I saw that he had moves similar to Captain America.
Yeah, so in
I
the
never
comics,
knew who he was.
Yeah, so in the comics, it's a very similar thing. Captain America doesn't really feel like he wants to be Captain America anymore during the 80s. So they get this guy in, John Walker, US agent, who again, like in the comics, he's the man who will follow orders, and he's the man who will use a firearm. And obviously our Cap wouldn't use a firearm. Which
he got them hands.
Yeah, but it shows as well, it's symbolic as well that Captain America is all about, defending liberty, whereas US agents or John Walker, sorry, is more about kind of being preemptive and being the aggressor, even when he doesn't need to be. God, there was another point I wanted to bring up, but I've totally forgotten. The Flag Smashers. Now, before we get into the Flag Smashers, let's go back onto Isaiah Bradley. So, when they knock on his door, a young black boy answers the door.
Oh God, that's going to be someone.
Yeah, of course it is. Of course it is. So in the comics, in the Young Avengers, Isaiah's grandson, Elijah Bradley, is actually a young Avenger named Patriot. So again, we're seeing more and more of these young Avengers just popping up in these programs. But
look how I said something. I dropped an Easter egg without even realizing when I said that. Old Captain America, second Captain America, he's still kind of patriotic. And to find out now, you're saying that his grandson is called the Patriot.
Will be called the Patriot, hopefully. So far, we've seen Wiccan and Speed, who are Wanda's children, and we've seen Elijah Bradley. And we know we're going to see Kate Bishop, the next Hawkeye, in her own series as well, coming up.
Yeah, what about Tony Stark's daughter? Ain't she going to be...
No, I don't think Tony Stark's daughter features, but we're going to see Riri Williams eventually, who is Ironheart, as well, who's a young girl who is going to have the same level of genius as Tony Stark.
Yeah, they're making this. They've started casting for that. I'm pretty sure. I think I may have tagged you in that as well.
I think you did. I think she may have already been cast actually, but
yeah.
But going on as well, but talking about law and morality, the Flag Smashers. Now, they're being cast as the bad guys so far in this TV series, but are they really the bad guys?
No, not from when you hear how they were talking. Their reason and their logic is justifiable. It's just, again, they're just seen as antagonists.
I mean, they were transporting vaccines, it seems, to people who needed them. Maybe they've got the AstraZeneca package, which the EU is so desperate to get their hands on.
Yeah, that's that COVID right there. That's them COVID vaccine right there.
Exactly. So they've got the COVID vaccine, and they're going to go and give it to the countries which can't get the vaccine because of imperialist forces like the EU. But of course, yes. Ant-Man's daughter, of course, yes. She also becomes a young Avenger. All of these hints are being dropped. But as well, with the Flag Smashers, they have genuine empathy for each another. Like when that Flag Smasher sacrifices himself for Carly Montague, she's crying. She's not a typical bad guy who just sees him as disposable trash. She sees all of her soldiers as human beings who she cares about. And when they go to different parts of Europe, they're getting genuine love from people. So again, there's this kind of moral haze as to whether the flag smashers
Who's
are
the bad guy and who isn't?
yeah. And if they are transporting vaccines and that's not super soldier serum, as I kind of suspect it might be as well, but if that is vaccine they're giving to people who need it, then that's a good pure thing, surely.
But how crazy was, I mean, as you said that about across Europe, and it just popped in my head about the ending with the guy from Civil War.
Oh, Zemo. Helmet to Zemo.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're gonna. So obviously, the show. So all the flag smashers have all got super soldier serum. So just Falcon and Bucky essentially have to work out where this serum has come from and who's providing it. You saw in the program that Carly Montague gets a text from somebody basically saying, "You've got my stuff. I'm going to kill you."
Yeah.
Looks like that's going to be the Power Broker. Now, the Power Broker in the comics, it's actually lots of different people at different times, but essentially they broke power. They sort you out a bit of super soldier serum or special power if you need it. So it looks like they've stolen the super soldier serum from the Power Broker, I'm assuming.
Yeah, from where it was supposed to go. It looks like they were supposed to deliver it.
Hello.
Hello.
So yeah, that's the impression I'm getting from the show. I mean, so far I think it's really good. I'm really happy the show's touching upon racial issues. I think he's going to go deeper with it. But yeah, like, are there any other thoughts about Falcon and Winter Soldier before we wrap it up?
Well, I just, like I said, I'm happy with how it will go as long as they don't water down their ability. You can't have them be taking L's every week and, getting slapped about super soldier or not. No matter what super soldier serum they take, Winter Soldier is supposed to put them hands on people. How can you be 106?
Okay, so something saying Elevator's not worthy says, I don't think it's a serum. I think it's more of a pill vaccine that develops over time. That's interesting. That's interesting. That's an interesting point.
But Elevator not worthy. Do you believe that they shouldn't water down their character, Bucky and Falcon, for them to be basically just getting... It seems as though from the fights that they literally... I mean, maybe it's because they're going through an emotional thing right now, so they're not being themselves. But they're just literally taking some serious beating right now. I
think from a writer's point of view, you have to do that to the characters. You can't have the main characters win all the time, otherwise it gets boring. They need to have a few losses so they can build themselves up to that big victory.
Oh, and just for those, the casuals who's not aware, if you're not into MMA, but the guy on the plane who he was fighting with Falcon, that is who's classed as the greatest welterweight champion of all time in UFC, George Rush St. Pierre. He's a retired UFC fighter. French-Canadian.
Oh, that's cool. Actually, I never knew that. But
yeah, George St. Pierre.
It's good to see. It's good to see everybody's getting a chance in the MCU to shine.
Yeah, so they're bringing in, all different people. So again, the fan base, again, is going to be more right there because all, George St. Pierre is like up there in, when you come to UFC and you talk about UFC, you can't say UFC without talking about George St. Pierre. So yeah.
Yep. So Elevator's not worthy. Says, yep, I think near the end.
Mr. Cameo person, come on, Elevator's not worthy. What do you know that we don't know? Do you work for MCU?
Like an assemble scene with Sam, Bucky, Zemo, Sharon, Batroc, and the mystery cameo person. Yeah, who is this? A mystery cameo person. That's going to be
Elevator's not worthy. What's your name? We need to know who. That's a long thing to say.
Hey!
We know.
Let them hide behind the notoriety, Davian. Don't be calling people out.
Duke of Homerton. Give us a code name.
He's giving you a code name. Elevator's not worthy.
All right, that's fine. That's fair enough. But yeah, no, I'm enjoying it. I mean, it's really interesting. But again, it's gonna make it very interesting for.
Okay, so no, I don't work for Marvel. Someone came out during an interview and said there is something coming.
Did they also say whether or not Falcon's sister is gonna get that loan, or will they not get the loan?
Yes, thank you, Penny. Yeah, stop being.
I'm lovable.
Yeah, well,
Penny, I know you're going to throw some potatoes at me right now.
You haven't come across as lovable during the course of this podcast so far. We're gonna have to work on this. After we go off air,
it's Hayward. Yeah, he's gonna have a word with me. It's Hayward. It's his fault. How he did poor Vision's, dead body. Wanda should have given him that. That's what it was.
I can see you getting rolled up again. So I'm gonna.
Yeah, I'm calm now, guys. I'm calm.
I'm gonna bring it back down. Okay. So in episode 5, there's going to be a cameo. I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to do a bit of research for that. When we do our review of episode 3 on the weekend, I have a few theories about that. I know, Penny. I know. I've calmed him down. It's okay. Thank you. But yeah, I think we've gone for 2 hours. I think I'm going to knock it on the head, but I'm looking forward to episode 3. Definitely. And we'll be back online at some point on Saturday to discuss episode 3. Any parting words before we say adios?
Yes, thank you all for tuning in. And again, apologies for the late start. That was due to me getting food from my belly. Maybe that's why I'm so aggressive, because I still haven't eaten yet. And we've been online for 2 hours. I haven't had my lunch yet. And it's bedtime for you guys. It's after 11, after 10 in the UK. And it's only 4 o'clock for me here. Yeah, so it's only 4 o'clock for me here. So it's a late lunch. But, as usual, we're very, very grateful to everyone for tuning in, for participating, because, this is all fun. Thanks, Absolutely. Penny. See you soon. This has been all fun because, we're in a strange time right now. So, anything we can all do, to get our spirits up, this is great. And, what better thing than something that we can all talk about and put our own input and views on. So,
the great thing about the MCU movies is you can actually have serious discussions about morality and philosophy through these movies and through these series. That's the beauty of cinema and storytelling on the whole.
Yeah, of course.
The MCU
is just like poetry.
Doing it exactly. They're just doing it beautifully.
You just interpret how you want to do it when you do your own depiction of it. So it's been
okay. Elevator's not worthy. I said looked it up. It's a new character, not a cameo. Sorry, but a new character is still going to be interesting. It's still going to get the juices flowing. Yeah, I reckon it's still going to be pretty awesome. I think.
Well, Elevator's not worthy. I hope you have to come back tuning again when we're back on. On the weekend.
Back on the weekend. Next week during the week, I want to do a quick podcast. Well, I say quick. We'll probably plan to do it for half an hour and still be here for another 2 hours, talking about how the MCU. Oh, cheers, man. More than welcome. About how theories around how the MCU could introduce the mutants. I really want my friend Davie to partake in this podcast. Unfortunately, he said no. He wants to listen instead, which is fine. But he's got so much knowledge about the recent Marvel comics, a lot more than I have in terms of the X-Men and stuff. But it's fine. It's fine. We'll do it. We'll stumble through it. But yeah, I want to say goodbye to everybody.
Yes.
Thank
Goodbye,
you for
everyone, and see you all on the weekend. Stay safe. And yes, I'm going to have lunch. And yes, Manny P, as usual, it's been awesome. And yes, Dowdy, Penny, Elevators Not Worthy, and all the other millions that's watching.
it's not millions.
Yeah, not yet. We'll see you guys on the weekend, and stay safe. And once again, get the word out there. The more, the merrier. We're gonna have fun. We're gonna be taking over the world, the MCU.
Exactly right. See you guys.